All right, guys, now we're gonna go and do the second part of this foldable. So after we've done the second part, you can go ahead and paste it into your interactive student notebook to help you out. These will be very beneficial. Now, guys, everything from here on in this chapter basically builds on these concepts here. So while it's short and sweet, they are very, very, very important. All right, so corresponding angles are congruent, and I'm going to add to this, are congruent when lines are parallel. Okay, we have a theorem that says this. This is the corresponding angles theorem. Okay, so the corresponding angles theorem tells us if two lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles are congruent. All right, so notice these two markings here. This tells us that these two lines are parallel. So if these two lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. So this angle here is in the top right, and this angle here is in the top right. So these two would be corresponding angles. Okay, now you need to ask yourself, what does it mean for two angles to be congruent? Okay, two angles that are congruent means they have the same measure, which means they are equal when it comes to how many degrees they have. So I would write 63 equals 2x plus 1. And now it's just algebra, guys. Minus 1. So 62 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2. I get x equals 31. All right, let's do another example, guys. So let's go under the alternate exterior angles tab. And what you need to know is that alternate exterior angles are also congruent. And I'm going to put here when lines are parallel. The lines have to be parallel in order for them to be congruent. This is called the alternate exterior, and I'm abbreviating, angles theorem. Okay, so anytime the lines are parallel, alternate exterior angles will always be congruent. Okay, so notice these two arrows right here tell us these two lines are parallel, which means that alternate exterior angles, which is this here and this here, are congruent. Now, you need to ask yourself, what does congruent mean? When two angles are congruent, they have the same angle measure. So therefore, we can set up an algebra problem by setting them equal. Okay, so now it's just algebra from here. Subtract 1 on both sides. 100 equals 2x, divide by 2. So I have 50 equals x. All right, guys, let's look under the flap of alternate interior angles. Okay, so alternate interior angles are also congruent. And I'm going to put when lines are parallel. And as you can probably have guessed, the name of the theorem that tells us this is the alternate interior angles theorem. Okay, alternate interior angles theorem. All right, so if I look at this example, I know that this angle and this angle are alternate interior angles, and I know these two lines are parallel because of these same arrow markings right here and here. Okay, so if the two lines are parallel, that means that these have to have the same angle measure, which means I can just set them equal to each other. So 3x equals 139, divide by 3, divide by 3. Let me get my calculator. 139 divided by 3, so x is going to equal 46 1/3. All right, last but not least, consecutive interior angles. Now, consecutive interior angles are kind of the odd man out, guys. And the reason being is because consecutive interior angles are not congruent. So I'm going to put parentheses, not congruent. Instead, they are supplementary. And I'm going to go ahead and put when lines are parallel, because if the lines aren't parallel, then they're not supplementary. Okay, and as you can probably guess, the theorem that tells us this is the consecutive interior angles theorem. Okay, so this angle here and this angle here are consecutive interior angles. Now I want to bring something to your attention. So this 60-degree angle clearly is an acute angle, and this angle that is 3x is clearly obtuse. So one of the ways you can know, like in a test or whatever situation, you can't set these equal is an acute angle will never equal obtuse. Okay, so that should be a red flag that they're not congruent, and if they're not congruent, then they have to be supplementary. So now you need to ask yourself, what does it mean to be supplementary? All right, now supplementary means they add up to 180, so 60 plus 3x equals 180. Okay, now minus 60 on both sides, so 3x equals 120. Divide by 3, I get x equals 40. Okay, now we're done with this foldable, so feel free to go ahead and paste it into your interactive student notebook.